I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. Is it an effort to shut down pro-life pregnancy centers in New York City? We'll have the latest.
This is just making sure that when women come into the centers, they know what's available and what's not available.
Nearly a year after a devastating earthquake, Haiti faces another crisis. We'll talk with someone who's there. And we'll get a behind-the-scenes look at Sainthood.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. It's a bill that some pro-life groups say is intended to shut down crisis pregnancy centers in New York City. The City Council is considering a piece of legislation that would limit how some pregnancy centers can advertise. Pro-choice groups want to print on their ads and on their front doors that they do not provide abortion or contraception.
Well, the pro-life crisis pregnancy centers, meantime, say they are under attack by people who want to shut them down. Both sides presented their arguments on Tuesday during a committee hearing at New York City Hall. On one side, pro-choice groups and some members of the City Council say crisis pregnancy centers are dangerous to women.
Unfortunately, when a woman enters a crisis pregnancy center, or CPC, she is confronted with biased counseling, anti-abortion propaganda, and deception.
On the other side, crisis pregnancy centers say they're being unfairly attacked.
We don't want negative, pejorative language used in our advertising that's going to put a Star of David or a scarlet letter on the image of our organization as if there's something insufficient or wrong about us.
At issue is New York City Council Intro Bill number 371, which would require crisis pregnancy centers to post signs that say they do not provide abortions or have a licensed medical practitioner on staff.
There's been a lot of studies, including by Congressman Waxman, NARAL did the study here in New York, that women are misled by the scope of services provided by some of the limited service pregnancy centers. So the importance of having this consumer protection law is just so that when women come in, they understand what services are available and what are not available.
I would say this is legislation that is grossly offensive to American rights under the First Amendment.
During Tuesday's hearing on the bill, City Council members heard from both sides of the issue. NARAL Pro-Choice New York cited the results of a recent undercover study of what they call limited service pregnancy centers.
The results presented in our recent report demonstrate that many CPCs in New York consistently and intentionally misrepresent themselves and their services. Their tactics delay and sometimes divert women from accessing real reproductive health care.
But City Councilman Daniel Holleran pointed out that the study was not performed in a scientific manner. And the founder of Expectant Mother Care says NARAL has just one goal in mind.
That they're not going to be happy unless we're shut down. They put a call out to bring women in to shut us down.
Another City Council member, though, said that is not the case.
We do not want to put these centers out of business. We hope they continue to exist, and they are free to tell women whatever it is that they want. Under the First Amendment, they have that right. But they shouldn't do it under the guise of pretending that they're medical providers when they're not.
But EMC and other crisis pregnancy centers say their First Amendment rights are precisely what they're in danger of losing.
That it is an absolute violation of the First Amendment. Chris can advertise whatever he wants, for or against, whatever he wants to do, but he gets to make that choice. Government doesn't get to make that choice for him, and that's what the issue is today.
Well, we believe that the proposed bill by the City Council is consistent with the First Amendment. It's really just a consumer protection bill. This is just making sure that when women come into the centers, they know what's available and what's not available.
If this is really about protecting a woman or being pro-choice, the only way you can have choice is if you have alternatives.
Chris Slattery believes his ads, many of which read "free abortion alternatives" in bold letters, are already clear and should not have to be changed. If the law passes, he says his group faces a tough decision.
A bad law is no law at all. We have to decide whether we may disobey these laws or whether we, after exhausting our legal remedies, will we obey?
Well, I called the City Council's office this afternoon, and as of now, there is no date set for a final vote on the bill.
Well, stay with us. An anti-bullying bill is making its way through the New Jersey legislature, but some say it could have unintended consequences. We have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, we'll meet a woman who has one of the most influential jobs in the church, and you won't believe what she does.
But first, let's turn to the day's headlines. Pope Benedict says a Pakistani woman awaiting execution should be spared that punishment. We get details from Rome Reports.
In his general audience, the Pope sent a plea to Pakistan to release a Christian woman who has been sentenced to death for blasphemy.
In questi giorni la comunità internazionale segue con grande preoccupazione la difficile situazione dei cristiani in Pakistan, che spesso sono vittime di violenze o di discriminazione. In modo particolare oggi esprimo la mia vicinanza spirituale alla signora Asia Bibi e ai suoi familiari, mentre chiedo che al più presto le sia restituita la piena libertà. Inoltre prego per quanti si trovano in situazioni analoghe, affinché anche la loro dignità umana ed i loro diritti fondamentali siano pienamente rispettati.
The Pope took this opportunity to tie in another heroic female, Saint Juliana of Liège, who was also persecuted.
Dovette subire la dura opposizione di alcuni membri del clero e dello stesso superiore da cui dipendeva il suo monastero. Allora di sua volontà Giuliana lasciò il convento di Moncornillon con alcune compagne e per 10 anni, dal 1248 al 1258, fu ospite di vari ministeri di suore cisterciensi.
This general audience is the latest in a series of catecheses, which she has dedicated to a female saint.
In Australia, young Assyrian Christians gathered at Sydney's Martin Palace Tuesday, covered in fake blood, to protest the recent massacre at a Baghdad church. Many people taking part in the protests were Iraqis who sought refuge in Australia after fleeing attacks against Christian minorities, which began after the U.S.-led invasion. 52 Christians died last month when extremists stormed into Our Lady of Deliverance Catholic Church during Mass. Last week, we told you that the U.S. Bishops' Conference was concerned about the shortage of exorcists in the country. Well, in response, more than 100 Catholic priests attended exorcism training classes over the weekend. One of the bishops who organized the training said the idea came about after several priests asked if such classes were available.
Well, a Massachusetts man already behind bars for setting fire to a predominantly black church pleaded guilty this week to 10 more counts. 25-year-old Benjamin Haskell is serving a 9-year sentence in federal prison for burning down the Macedonia Church of God in Christ just hours after Barack Obama was elected president. Now he faces 6 more years behind bars for setting fire to a house in 2003. The judge in the case called Haskell a one-man crime wave. Well, lawmakers in New Jersey are pushing for an anti-bullying bill in response to the recent number of high-profile teen suicides. But some pro-family groups are concerned it could limit religious speech. The Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights would stiffen penalties for bullies. It would expand the law to make the inflicting of emotional harm fall under the definition of bullying. And it would establish a week of respect in the state. The New Jersey Family Policy Council says the effort is a noble one, but the group's leader says he's worried the legislation may punish teachers and students for expressing religious beliefs about homosexuality. Well, elsewhere in New Jersey, a local pastor is calling on his lay leaders to give up Facebook. Pastor Cedric Miller of Living Word Christian Fellowship in Neptune, New Jersey, says the website can lead to marital infidelity by reigniting old passions. Miller reportedly says he will require all church leaders to delete their Facebook accounts and will strongly suggest all church members to do the same. And finally, in the first major move of his presidency at the U.S. Bishops' Conference, Archbishop Timothy Dolan is named Bishop Gerald Kakanis as chairman of Catholic Relief Services. Bishops elected Dolan as USCC president yesterday in a surprise vote. Many thought Kakanis was sure to win. Dolan was, until yesterday, the chairman of Catholic Relief Services, but he appointed Bishop Kakanis to his old job today.
And stay with us. We'll have more news from Catholic Relief Services next.
Just ahead, a cholera outbreak is making relief efforts in Haiti more difficult. We'll talk with someone who's helping. Welcome back. Well, nearly a year after the devastating earthquake that claimed thousands of lives, Haiti is now facing another crisis, cholera. At last count, over 1,100 people had died from an outbreak that began last month. Another 18,000 have been hospitalized. It's spread to the neighboring Dominican Republic now, and just today, Miami confirmed a case of cholera from a woman who just returned from a visit to Haiti. Well, joining us now from Haiti is Luke King with Catholic Relief Services. Luke, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, just tell me a little bit briefly as we get started here what you're seeing there in Haiti on the ground.
Sure. Catholic Relief Services, we're seeing an increasing number of cases, particularly at the hospitals that CRS supports. It would be too much to say that they are overwhelmed, but many of the hospitals are certainly stretched to the limit in treating new cases of cholera throughout the country.
All right. Well, you've got this, of course, now it's spread to the Dominican, as we were saying. It's now even one case has been confirmed in Florida, as I mentioned there, from someone who was just visiting the country. The logistical challenges, I'm sure, are kind of vast with the situation that Haiti's been going through. Kind of describe that to me, if you will, and some of the challenges that CRS and other organizations face in trying to help people in Haiti right now.
Yes, it's definitely a very challenging environment. Of course, with the earthquake in January and the recovery efforts that have been ongoing. And then more recently, the cholera epidemic and the Hurricane Thomas, which passed near Haiti just last month. All of these make the response more complicated and more complex because each add a new layer that we have to address. Fortunately, the humanitarian community is here. There's a huge number of non-governmental organizations providing services, which have enabled us to address a lot of the pressing needs quicker than we could otherwise in a different country where we didn't have quite this amount of capacity.
Right. Well, of course, there's also kind of, been the political climate, I think, has been sort of something that's been a bit of a challenge there in Haiti as well. Has that been causing any problems as far as the logistics of helping folks?
I would not say the political situation is affecting the logistics too much. There were some riots this week that we're still collecting information on that have prevented some humanitarian actors from accessing different parts of the country. But by and large, the political situation has not affected our response in the country.
Right. As far as Catholic Relief Services specifically, what are some of the specific things that you're doing to try to combat the cholera situation there?
Within 24 hours of the epidemic being declared, CRS was already out in the camps doing prevention, education, and distributions of soap, chlorine, water receptacles. So right away we started with an immediate response to try and prevent the spread of the disease. Since then, we have been supporting over 8 hospitals in country with medical supplies, cholera beds, education materials to permit them to respond to an influx of cases.
What are some of the causes of this outbreak? I mean, of course, we know that the earthquake has really set everything back there. Haiti was already in dire straits as it stood before the earthquake nearly a year ago now, and that's hard to believe. But you've got that situation, and of course there was some other weather-related things that you mentioned. Is all of this kind of combining just to provide a perfect storm for this disease?
I'm not sure that I can respond completely to that question. We don't know what the source of this disease is. Certainly, the conditions are ripe for the disease to spread in Haiti, simply due to the lack of sanitary infrastructure throughout the country. And that's what has us most concerned is that the conditions are ripe. So, regardless of the source of the disease, we have to be ready to respond to it. And that's why we're doing a major prevention effort and a major medical response effort to try and contain it as much as possible. Because thankfully, it's easy to treat. It's easy to prevent, but it's nevertheless hard to contain, which is why I think that we're seeing increases popping up in other parts of the region.
There you go. Well, if we have some viewers out there who might be watching saying, how can we help? How can they help?
Well, I would like to encourage them to go to our website at crs.org, but also their prayers are always welcome. We have opportunities for them to contribute on our website, and simply their goodwill is much needed at this time.
All right. Well, Luke King with Catholic Relief Services there in Haiti, we appreciate your service and what you're doing there in that country. It's, of course, very, very much needed at this time, and we thank you for taking a few minutes out to join us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All
right. Well, stay with us. There's much more Currents coming up. When we return, what does it take to become a saint? We'll find out.
Well, finally tonight, we began this month with All Saints Day, and we spend a lot of time on this show talking about saints, but what does it really take to make a saint? Well, you're about to find out.
Yeah, the folks over at Rome Reports recently spoke with a woman who makes her living by making saints. As you're about to see, it can be a long and complicated process.
One of the most solemn ceremonies of the year is when the Pope proclaims new saints, who serve as shining life examples for Catholics worldwide. In order to declare someone a saint, the Church launches an intense investigation that can take years. During this time, the postulator examines whether or not the candidate really lived like a hero of Christian virtue. Silvia Corrale is from Argentina. She is one of the few female postulators in the world. She is currently reviewing 20 beatification cases, including that of Vietnamese Cardinal François Xavier Van Thuan and world-renowned architect Antoni Gaudí.
The truth is that I haven't counted all of them. I know that I have a significant number of upcoming cases that cover a little bit of every vocation in the life of the Church.
In order to open the beatification process, 5 years have to pass after the candidate's death. This time period is necessary to evaluate if this person's saintly legacy is kept alive or forgotten.
That sense of God's people, among which this person was a saint, we would say we have the public opinion, that common feeling of the people, of the ordinary people of God. This is already a sign.
The next step involves gathering testimonies from people who knew him or her, in order to demonstrate their virtues with concrete facts and not just opinions. With this information, a detailed biography called Positio is compiled.
It's a book that contains the biographical synthesis of the servant of God and information on each of the cardinal virtues that we receive in baptism: faith, hope, and charity, justice, prudence, fortitude, and temperance, and also virtues like humility.
The postulator will ultimately have to prove a miracle occurred in order to validate that the candidate intercedes between man and God. The Church considers this a sign from God that certifies that this person is in heaven. The last step before being canonized is being beatified, which means that a person can be venerated in their diocese. In order to declare someone a saint, an additional miracle has to be proven. Every time that someone is proclaimed a new saint, it is a milestone marking the end of years of work from a postulator and his or her staff. Corrale says it is like giving birth. You suffer a lot, but in the end, it's a great joy.
It takes many years, a lot of work, and when the moment finally arrives, it is a great joy, in which one has already forgotten the years of labor, of working hard to convince the superiors of the congregation of all the various motivations.
Benedict XVI says that saints are like the jewels that adorn the Church. Because of this, the work of the postulators like Silvia Corrale is like that of a goldsmith, whose vocation is about making each and every one shine.
There are many saints. It seems like you can, pray to just about any saint that you want for a particular thing, whether it's St. Joseph for, your home, or whether it's St. Francis, or, you can sort of elect to choose. And obviously there's a lot of work that goes into what it takes to actually make someone into a saint.
A lot of work, a lot of work. I mean, you saw the book there, how big the book is. Apparently, that's holding all the information about the virtues and all of that. I can't help but sit here and think, okay, mine probably wouldn't fill a pamphlet, But yeah, there's a lot of work, a long process that goes into it. But it's all very interesting. I mean, it's all kind of the inner workings of the Catholic Church and how you go about all of that. I think is very, very interesting. And it's one of course, as we know, one of the oldest systems around for how things work. And it's worked that way for a long, long time.
For sure. Well, that is it for tonight. Remember, we are always online at currentsny.net, and you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter as well. Until next time, I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.